Terminology. A request from a client constitutes the downstream inbound trip of a request response cycle. The response from a web application constitutes the upstream outbound trip in Jakarta server pages. Now we are considering terminology also here. A request from a client constitutes the downstream inbound trip of a request response cycle. The response from a web application constitutes the upstream outbound trip. Before you read any, this figure shows the request from a client as request flows through the set of filters and handled by the web resource. Notice this figure shows filter 3 being applied twice to request response cycle, or although this is not the common practice, it is technically possible. For example, you could have a adapter filter that modifies the request. Using initialization parameters, you could control how the filters modifies the request. Thus, one instance of the filter could modify one aspect of the request, and the second instance of the same filter could modify the different aspect of the request. The request originates from the client and goes through the chain of filters before reaching the final resource processor. In this figure, the first request travels from the client through the first filter, through the second filter, then so on. We call this the downstream or inbound trip. The downstream trip always forward the final goal. The resource processor. After the resource processor is finished with the request, the response then will travel the upstream or outbound back through the filters and onward to the client. Upstream trips are always anyway away from resource processor and forward to the client. New to Servlet 2.4 is the ability to of filters and filters to participate in forward and include redirection request of the request dispatcher. This is very important advanced architecturally. Here you can see client is connected to filter 1 and filter 2, and then for the filter 1 is connected to filter 2, and filter is connected to filter 3, and filter 3 is connected to resource processor, and resource processor connected to filter 1 and filter 3, and filter is again connected to filter 3, and filter 3 is connected to filter 2, and filter 2 is connected to filter 1, and filter 1 is connected to client. Here you can see the from client, the downstream, and here an inbound or inbound, and here the to client, the upstream or outbound. Now this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for watching it.